How long do you think the Bigfoot live for? In other words, what is their longevity? Well, we're kind of only scratching the surface on this area. Many people are still stuck back at trying to prove that Bigfoot exists, and that's their main goal and their main objective. I'm beyond that. I'm trying to figure out why Bigfoot does what Bigfoot does. And like I said, we're only scratching the surface. We can kind of use the sciences like zoology and anthropology and make a guess that maybe somewhere the Bigfoot would live near the age of chimpanzees or possibly humans. Just a guess, okay? No data on it whatsoever. We do know that their immunities and the effects of their diet and what I call civilized pollution may make them live a lot longer since they're not exposed to it. Mankind might be killing themselves because we're always mixing toxic chemicals and putting crap in our food to make it last longer and stuff like that. So we might be just doing ourselves in. After all, mankind has expanded their life now to be over 70 years old on the average. However, and I'm not preaching to anybody, but in the Bible, it makes mention that several people back in the early days of man lived well up to almost 1,000 years. So the life cycle could be changed drastically. Man could live a lot longer if conditions and so forth were right. Okay. This is why it is really important for me in my Bigfoot face database. Now I'm just barely getting started on this, and I'm really trying to get other Bigfoot researchers to participate. I know they feel a little selfish about wanting to keep their stuff their own, but it would be nice if they would create their database, or at least a picture database, and then send a link out to other researchers like myself so that we could start tracking these faces. And like I said before, I really don't care if these are blob squatches or squash blobs or optical illusions or whatever. I don't really care. What I'm looking for is matches. If the same face shows up in two different places in two different times, the probability of that being a real Bigfoot really goes up. If you get 3 matches, you're pretty certain it's a real thing. So, you want to do that. And that also gives us some capabilities of gathering information about the Bigfoot that we won't get from just actual sightings and, sighting reports and stuff like that. We really need to be able to see how they're doing. This will allow us to possibly get a better feel for longevity, birth rates, death cycles, and so forth. And a real good example of this is the one that I call Squeaker. Now, several years back, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen the video, we found a pile, they call it a rubbish shelter or something like that. And we looked at it, and this was off in the woods all by itself, and we photographed it, and then I climbed inside of it. Now I must admit, when I climbed inside, I really didn't expect any critters to be in there, but I had told the guys on the outside that if I started screaming, they were to grab my ankles and drag me out of there. But I climbed in there. I had a small camera with me that had some limited night vision. In other words, it had a little dinky infrared light on the front of it that was good for about 10 or 15 feet. As I climbed into the hole, I couldn't see anything because my body plugged up the hole. And I get a lot of that from the Bigfoot people. Well, if you couldn't fit in, a Bigfoot couldn't fit in. Well, not necessarily. Not all Bigfoot are big, okay? Not only is there smaller species, but the young, generally speaking, are a lot smaller when they start out. They're not very big, okay? They have to grow to be those big honking giants that you see. So I believe this nest was created for them. And you wouldn't believe how well that nest blends into the forest. Even though it seems to be out in the open, until you really get up on the hill and look down on it, you don't see it. It's pretty well gone. Okay, let's take a time out and take a quick look at the nest. This is how it looks on the forest floor, and this next shot gives you a size perspective of how many people could possibly fit in it. And then once you get down and you see it, then it's something else. But I climbed in there, and you know, I was trying to see with my natural eyes. And then when I crawled in a little bit further, I see there's nothing in here. And then I look down at my camera in the viewfinder, and I see something sitting back in the back of the thing. And you'll hear me say, "Oh, there's something in here." And a couple of the other guys are going, "Well, maybe you better get out." Well, I looked at it a little bit longer, and you can kind of see the outline of it back in the back of the thing. It was a baby Bigfoot. Let's take a break here and take a look at Squeaker. Now, this is the first time I had met him. He was terrified of me. He was scrunched all the way back in the back of the nest as far as he could get. He was in the fetal position. He was trying to hide his face and be as quiet as possible. But I was not very far from him. I could see him. The next shot, or next two shots, are of Squeaker near Spooky Valley, which is not too far away. He's about 6 months older in these two shots. And the third shot is about a year later. And I have a fourth shot, but I've not been able to find it yet. Okay, and people really, well, it was a bear, it was a porcupine, it was, no. I was only 3, maybe 4 feet from it. I could see it pretty well, you know, once I knew where it was, I could see it pretty well. This was a baby Bigfoot, okay. It's in the fetal position, and it was trying to scrunch back into the back of the shelter as far as it could get and be as quiet as it could get. It was doing its training, exactly what it's supposed to do, okay. When I saw it, I decided, well, you know, I am a no-kill, no-harm person. I'm there to study them. I am not there to kill them. I am not there to capture them. I want to study them, okay? So I backed out of there, and we put up cameras on the nest. We put up 3 or 4 cameras looking at the nest so that if mom or dad came by or if the baby came out, we'd get pictures of them. Well, I didn't realize how intelligent these turkeys were. I say turkeys facetiously. But basically, they went around and turned all my cameras around or took them off the tree and put them in the dirt. All I got was what looks like to be a kind of a hairy arm and shoulder right here on one picture. So, yeah, I goofed, but I did not harm anything and I did not kill anything. Well, the nice thing is because I didn't harm it or kill it or tear the nest apart or anything, that gave me observational opportunities later on. I think I kind of earned a little bit of trust that day because I really think we were being watched, and if that baby would have cried out, we would probably got ripped up. But since nothing happened, I backed out of there. They recognized the red shirt from then on. Okay, so that gave me the opportunity to see Squeaker a couple of times. I photographed him again, and I'll show you a picture of his face. And then I was lucky enough to be able to see Whistler, Hooter, and Squeaker sit down at the picnic table. Notice the human features. They are very much like mankind. In fact, I think there might be two species, the more human kind and the more primitive kind. I'll show you some pictures of the more primitive kind later. This might have something to do or have differences in their longevity. Now this next photo I call Mr. Smelly, and he is a more primitive type. And this was a couple of years later. Well, over this time period of being able to see them 3 different times, I was able to see the difference in growth rate. Okay, so I can kind of get a feel for how quickly they grow from infancy to adulthood. Okay, now it's just a guess. I have no proof, and I'm still a crazy old coot. So, you know, take it for what it's worth. Their proportional growth rate. Of course, they're bigger than us. They grow faster than us, but not proportionally. So it seemed like the growth rate would be about like ours. If he was able to, able to grow to adulthood 8 feet tall, then adulthood is probably around the age of 19 or 20, somewhere around in there. Pretty close to ours. Now with the human males, we have a tendency to put on a little weight in our older ages, but you know, we basically grow to size in about the 19-20 year range. Again, this is just a guess. I don't know how they go through growth spurts and stuff, you know, don't know. So how long does an adult live? Well, once they reach an adult age, how long would they live? Who knows? Again, we know nothing about their diet, their you know, their immunities or anything like that. So it does seem, you know, one observation that I have kind of not seen is a number of babies. I haven't seen that many babies, which tells me their infant mortality rate is probably pretty high. I do believe that they give birth about at least, possibly not the same female, but they have at least one in the clan per year. So that's all. I kind of almost think it's like humans. Now with humans, we have babies all year round, but it might be that they have a thing about mating during the winter and then they pop them out in the spring or summer. I don't know. It's hard to say. So much we don't know.